Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, so you flagged a really interesting project for us today, Zamrul.
Yes, Zamrul.
We've got three main documents here: Falls Rob's visionary project, the basic concept notes, and the business plan.
Right.
And our mission really is to unpack what this is all about, why it matters, especially in the context of Bangladesh.
Absolutely. And, the first thing that really jumps out is the core problem they're trying to solve.
Which is?
It's these language barriers, deep language barriers within Bangladesh itself. You've got standard Bangla, but then loads of regional dialects.
Right, so standard Bangla doesn't always cut it for everyone.
Not at all. For many people, especially maybe in more rural areas, understanding, say, online information or even talking to officials in standard Bangla is, well, it's a real struggle.
And that affects access to, well, pretty much everything, right? Essential services, information.
Exactly. Think about trying to understand, I don't know, health advice online or educational videos. If it's not quite in the language you speak day to day, it's a massive hurdle.
A really significant one. And this is what got the founder, Fawaz Rob, thinking. His background's pretty interesting, too.
Oh, yeah, really diverse. Product design, architecture study over in Italy, fine arts in Bangladesh.
Speaks several languages, too. Bangla, English, Italian, French.
It's quite a mix.
Yeah.
And it seems like his own experiences kind of fed directly into this idea.
How so?
Well, the notes mention he grew up in Chittagong, so he saw these dialect differences firsthand, daily life stuff.
Okay.
And then later, working as an architect in rural areas, he really saw the real-world impact, people literally missing out or struggling because of these communication gaps.
So it came from personal frustration, then seeing it amplified out in the field.
Yeah. Pretty much. And that led to Zamrul's core concept.
Which is an app, right? An AI-powered app.
Yeah, an AI app designed specifically to translate between standard Bangla and all these different dialects, which translates to language for everyone.
Simple, powerful, captures the whole point.
It really does. And the documents talk about this sort of aha moment.
Go on.
Just realizing how many people are effectively, excluded or disadvantaged simply because of the dialect they speak. Like we said, health info, education. It's fundamental stuff.
So the solution isn't just tech for tech's sake.
No, definitely not. What's really interesting, I think, is the approach. It's very community-driven.
How does that work?
They want to use a gamified mobile app to crowdsource translations, get people involved in building the database.
Ah, okay. So tapping into the community itself.
Exactly, leveraging the people who actually speak these dialects.
And the gamification, like points and rewards.
Yeah, points, maybe even small cash rewards. They seem keen on getting teachers and students involved, particularly.
That could work. Makes it less of a chore, maybe even a bit of collective effort.
That seems to be the hope. Build a sense of ownership, maybe even pride, in creating this shared resource, not just a purely transactional thing.
Okay, so people submit translations, words, phrases. Then what? How does the AI fit in?
Right, so users submit their translations, and then the AI algorithms come in. They're supposed to figure out the best ones through what the notes call an organic process.
An organic process. What does that actually mean in practice, do you think? Is it like most common answer wins, or?
That's a good question. It's likely a mix of things. The AI would probably look at how many different people submit the same translation.
Okay, consensus.
Yeah, consensus, maybe user ratings or upvotes on translations. It'll likely cross-reference things within the database it's building, checking for consistency.
Right.
And it could also give more weight to translations from users who are, verified or have a good track record. Maybe those teachers they want to involve.
Makes sense. Sort of multiple checks and balances.
Hopefully. The end goal is this huge language database that can eventually handle real-time translation of spoken language across dialects.
Wow, okay. The potential for that. Emergency calls, remote consultations.
Huge implications.
The documents also had that image, the logo. Black stylized shape, red background.
Yeah, quite striking, sort of calligraphic Z maybe.
Yeah.
With the name Zamrul and the tagline in both languages. Gives it a strong identity.
It does. Okay, so strong identity, clever translation process. Let's talk bigger picture. What's the intended impact here?
Well, if it works as planned, the impact could be pretty far-reaching.
Yeah.
You're talking about lowering communication barriers in really critical areas.
Like healthcare.
Definitely. Making remote medical help actually work for people, regardless of dialect. Think about humanitarian aid, too. Getting messages and support out effectively to everyone.
Right, disaster response, things like that.
Crucial. And education, of course. opening doors for kids in remote areas,
Oh,
indigenous communities, letting them learn properly in their own language.
that feels incredibly important. And they mention integrating with existing
Yeah,
apps.
potential link-ups with popular platforms like Aroga for health or 10-Minute School, Chico for education. That could really scale the reach fast.
Okay, so the potential upside is massive, but how does it make money if it's free for users?
Good point. The plan is free for individuals. Yeah, that's key for getting that community buy-in and data.
So the business model targets.
Organizations,
Yeah.
NGOs, UN agencies, government bodies, companies,
Hmm.
they'd pay a subscription.
And what would they get for that?
More advanced features, probably analytics, data on language use in certain areas, and specialized modules.
Sector-specific modules like medical terms or educational vocabulary.
Exactly. Tailored for healthcare, education, humanitarian work, whatever the organization needs.
Okay, that makes sense. Are there other revenue streams planned?
Seems like it. The business plan mentions a few.
Oh.
B2B API licensing is one, letting other apps plug into their translation engine.
Smart.
Also, direct contracts with government or NGOs for specific projects, maybe education campaigns or disaster relief communication.
Partnerships with development orgs, too.
Yeah, UN, others focusing on things like indigenous access. They also mention subscriptions for schools or teachers wanting extra features, and even a language SDK for developers.
An SDK, so other people could build apps using Zamrul's language tech.
That seems to be the idea.
Yeah.
And even specialized medical AI add-ons down the line. It's quite a layered approach to revenue.
It sounds pretty comprehensive. Okay, how do they plan to actually, get this started, the rollout?
It's phased. Year one is about the prototype. Focus on just 2 dialects to begin with, Saladi and Chetgaya.
Pilot dialects. Why those two specifically, do we know?
The docs don't explicitly say why, but you'd guess they represent maybe significant user bases or perhaps dialects quite distinct from standard Bangla, making them a good test case.
Makes sense. Test the tricky ones first.
Possibly. Year one is also about partnerships.
Oh.
They mentioned BREC, local groups getting that community engagement going with the gamification, and having teachers involved in quality control.
Starting focused seems wise. Test, learn, refine.
Exactly. Before scaling up too fast.
Then year 2.
Expand to 4 more dialects.
Mm-hmm.
Lokaya, Kumalaya, Rangpura, Borashaya. Release those sector-specific modules we talked about and start making those B2B and government sales pitches.
And year 3.
That's the big push. Full national rollout, getting the API integrated widely, and even starting to look at global possibilities.
That's ambitious. A 3-year path to national coverage and beyond.
It is ambitious, yeah. But the tech plan seems thought through.
Tell me more about the tech side.
Well, the core is that gamified app for collecting the data, text input, voice, even camera, they say, and crucially, offline capability.
Offline is key for areas with spotty internet.
Absolutely vital. Then on the AI side, they plan to take existing open-source large language models, LLMs, and fine-tune them using the dialect data they collect.
Okay, using LLMs, for people maybe less familiar, why are they suited for this? What makes them powerful for translation, especially dialects?
Good question. So LLMs are trained on just vast amounts of text and data. This means they learn really complex patterns in language, not just words, but context, nuance, how ideas are expressed.
So they go beyond literal word for word.
Exactly. They can learn to map the meaning and style of a phrase from one dialect to another, making the translation feel much more natural and accurate than older methods might. It's about understanding intent, not just vocabulary.
Got it. That clarifies the power there. And quality control. How do they ensure the translations are actually any good?
It sounds like a multi-layered thing.
Hmm.
Community feedback, reviews by trusted people like those teachers again, and the AI itself ranking translations based on confidence scores or agreement.
Right. Need to build trust in the output.
Essential. If people don't trust the translations, they won't use it.
And the team behind this?
Fawaz Rob, the founder, is leading it. Then co-founders with backgrounds in AI, linguistics, social impact, finance, covering the key bases.
They mentioned partnerships too.
Yeah, with Bangladeshi tech firms like Bengali.ai, Gaze, Intelligent Machines, plus global advisors from places like Hugging Face, TopTal, Academia, and community champions on the ground. It seems like a solid network.
And they're not working in a vacuum, are they? They mentioned other projects.
Right, they draw inspiration from things like Mozilla Common Voicer, collecting voice data, the Masakane Project for African languages, Tatuba for volunteer translations.
So there are precedents for this kind of community-driven language project succeeding.
Definitely. It shows the model is viable. They're taking a proven approach, community data collection, and applying it very specifically to the Bangladeshi dialect issue.
With a clear focus on impact.
Very clear. Especially empowering marginalized groups, women, girls, indigenous communities, giving them access, preserving languages.
That social impact angle feels really central to the whole pitch.
It does. It's woven throughout the business plan. It's not just an add-on. It seems core to the value proposition for everyone involved, users, partners, maybe investors.
Speaking of investors, they're looking for funding.
$1 million, seeking equity negotiable.
Okay, and the plan details how they'd spend that.
Yeah. Budget breakdown for product dev, data collection, team, marketing, partnerships. Standard stuff, but laid out.
And they project break even.
Year 4, with sustainable revenue by year 5.
Year 4 break even. What are the big assumptions behind that, do you think? What could speed it up or slow it down?
Yeah, that timeline likely assumes a pretty good rate of user adoption and data contribution. It probably banks on landing those B2B and government contracts relatively smoothly. And of course, the tech development staying on track.
And risks.
Faster community growth or some big early contract wins could accelerate it. Slower adoption, tech hurdles, or difficulty closing those B2B deals could definitely push it back. Standard startup variables, really.
Sure, and they do acknowledge risks, right? Like data quality, keeping users engaged.
Oh, yeah, they list them out. Data quality, user engagement, tech challenges, adoption hurdles.
And they have mitigation strategies?
Seems so. The teacher moderation for quality, the gamification for engagement, leaning on expert partners for the tech, and those initial pilots to de-risk the launch.
Doing those pilots with someone like BRS sounds like a smart way to build credibility early on.
Absolutely. Getting feedback, proving the concept with a respected partner, that reduces risk significantly.
And they're thinking long-term, too. Exit strategies.
Yep. Acquisition by a big tech player, strategic partnerships, or even expanding the model globally to other regions with similar dialect challenges.
So they see a path beyond just Bangladesh.
It suggests they do. The core idea AI plus community for dialect translation could certainly apply elsewhere.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. Zamrul. It feels like a really compelling project.
I'd agree. It's tackling a very real, very significant problem in Bangladesh.
Using this blend of community power and AI tech.
Right. And the potential impact, socially and economically, is just huge if they can pull it off.
And for you listening, if you're interested in how knowledge gets shared and how barriers get broken down,
Zamrul is a fascinating case study. It's innovation meeting grassroots engagement, aimed squarely at democratizing access.
thinking back to that aha moment, the idea of someone, maybe an elderly person in a village, finally understanding health advice because it's in their dialect.
Or a child in an indigenous community getting to learn effectively in their own mother tongue.
That's powerful stuff. That's the real heart of it, isn't it?
It really is.